Now, I asked this question in the video I did in response to Minneapolis. And that was, is this really what you want, MAGA? I know it gives you some kind of feeling on the inside to feel like you're on the winning team despite receiving absolutely nothing. In fact, you got less, but he's just telling you we winning. Is this the world that you want? Shout out to all the subscribers and the members here on the channel. Don't forget to like the video. My name is Reese Waters, and I'm troubled.
My name is Renee Pooter. My father's name was Keith Pooter Jr. My father's dead. He was killed by an off-duty ICE agent. It was unjust. And I've seen things I don't like, and I want to remind people that this is real life. This is my real life. This isn't news. This is an article I can just swipe away on. My dad's dead. Please respect him. Say his name. Fuck ICE and Black Lives Matter. Justice for Keith Pooter Jr.
A black man was killed by ICE off duty in Los Angeles on New Year's Eve, and like Renee Good, he was an American citizen. But most people have not heard about Keith Pooter. I need y'all to think about and understand something. Black people experience this lack of visibility all the time when it comes to being victims. There are countless black victims that no one has even heard about, much less seen the public fight demanding answers and justice.
Last week, a man named Keith Pooter was killed by an off-duty ICE agent, but you probably haven't heard his name. And while part of that may be because of the ICE agent being off-duty rather than on-duty with a large crowd, we also know the biggest reason why this exists. Keith Pooter is a black man, and black men, black women that get killed by agents, officers, don't get the same amount of national attention. Many people online have been very angry at me and other black people for saying not to use the phrase "say her name" when it comes to Renee Good, and this is part of the reason. It has taken 7 days for the average person, and not even the average person, but for people online to find out about Keith Pooter, while most people across the country know who Renee Good is within 24 hours. Within 24 hours, people have started marching for her. They have been sharing the stories of her families. They have been talking about her, sharing posts of her, memorializing her, making sure that she is known. Meanwhile, Keith Pooter's family, they've been struggling to get into the news cycle. They've been struggling to have any conversation. And the same defense that ICE agents are using to justify killing Good is the same defense that they're using for justifying killing Pooter. They say that he had a weapon and that he pointed it at them first, despite the fact that nobody on the scene concurred that, aside from the officer who shot him. These are the conversations that we need to be having. It's not divisive to ask you to use language that matters. It's not offensive to ask you to consider how you're speaking about an issue, because part of the reason why fascism is happening now in the United States is because certain groups of people have never had to care this much. We've been under attack as black folks for a very long time. Indigenous folks understand. Many Latinos understand. There are many groups that understand that we have been under attack for a long time, but there are many folks that have just woken up, even in the last week, that are screaming, saying that we're being divisive. But what's more divisive? Refusing to acknowledge the work of someone that came before you, of people that have been here, people that have consistently voted in favor of not having things like this happen, or people who just showed up to the fight? Who is in charge of the language? Ask yourself that, and before you get angrier at somebody for asking you not to use a phrase than you do for the fact that that phrase has to exist in the first place, take a seat and breathe, because your privilege is showing.
But ultimately, these are things that we largely know. It is the majority population that needs to hear it. Fortunately, some of them have.
Outside of the last 2 days, how many of us heard about Keith Pooter getting shot and killed by an ICE agent? And don't lie neither. Don't lie. This is the time to be honest. Well, not just yourself, but everybody else. How many of us, because I just learned yesterday who Keith Pooter was, knew who this brother was up until the last 48 hours? But without question, this is national news. Renee Good's national news. Everybody knows about her. Everybody's talking about her. Everybody's concerned about what happened, as we should be. As we should be. It was cold-blooded murder. The arguments. Don't care. But this is the issue here. I talk about white people all the time. I don't fuck with my people. It just is what it is. I think the ones that claim that they're cool, who show in the 11th hour that they're not cool, are the biggest problem to me than people who are outwardly racist. White woman gets shot and killed by ICE. It's national news within the first 12 hours. Everybody's talking about it. It's social media's got a hold of it, got a grip on it. We all discussing it. But Keith Pooter has been well over, it's almost coming up 2 weeks now. We're not talking about Keith Pooter. Last 2 days we started talking about him a little bit more and more, but there's a massive discrepancy. Yeah, this country don't give a fuck about black people.
And of course, with a lack of attention comes a lack of response. This is a verified fundraiser for Keith Pooter's family that's being organized by his mother, which has only gotten $7,600 in donations. Y'all, this is unacceptable. Keith's family deserves just as much as Renee's family has gotten.
I just want to say that it's awesome that people have raised over $1.5 million for Renee Good's family, but I've been watching some of the language that people have been using surrounding this murder. Namely, things like ICE is killing people in the streets now, and similar statements implying that this is a completely new phenomenon when that is not true. In fact, this is a graphic of all of the people that we know ICE has killed.
Now, she was cooking, but I had to interrupt because I can't be the only one who saw that graphic and was dumbfounded at all the things and all the people that we don't talk about.
This is a paramilitary group that targets black and brown people first and foremost, so we know that the list is also longer than this. A black man, Keith Pooter Jr., was murdered by ICE on New Year's Eve in Los Angeles, and many people, unfortunately including myself, only became aware of this after Renee Good's murder. That's why it's important to say his name. Keith Pooter Jr. was killed just 30 minutes to midnight when he was celebrating New Year's Eve by his neighbor, an off-duty ICE agent. I would like to see some donations to Keith Pooter Jr.'s GoFundMe, which is made by his mother to support his 2 daughters. His GoFundMe only has about $18,000, just 1% of what Renee's does. Instead of buying a shirt or a pin with a quippy anti-ICE statement on it, please consider donating that money to this GoFundMe and give actual material support to those most affected by ICE. Now, there is another GoFundMe for him going around, reportedly made by his father. The reason I'm sharing this one is because it was posted by Black Lives Matter LA in partnership with Keith Pooter Jr.'s mother, who has been very outspoken about the entire situation. Black Lives Matter LA and Keith Pooter Jr.'s mother have stated that they don't know who made that other GoFundMe. That doesn't mean that it's not legitimate. I am sharing the direct words from Black Lives Matter LA, so please do not go around saying that the GoFundMe is illegitimate. We don't know. The link to support is in my bio, in my link tree, the first link at the top. Please also consider sharing and reposting this video, as I am part of the creator program, and I'll be donating all proceeds from this video to the GoFundMe on February 15th, 2026 when I am paid for it.
Now, the good news is thanks to the good work by creators like those that you've just heard and work that I am doing my part to continue, that GoFundMe has reached over $200,000. I'll put the link in the description. Now, the question is why? Now, if you've been black in this country for any amount of time, you may not ask that question, but this one is a little bit nuanced. Why the tragic shooting of Keith Pooter Jr. by ICE is not the same as Renee Good in Minneapolis. While the entire country continues to mourn the horrific death of a U.S. citizen in Minnesota, another family is grieving the loss of a black man in California whose death involved a different ICE agent has barely received national coverage. Keith Pooter was shot and killed on New Year's Eve, days before an ICE agent fired multiple rounds into Renee Good's SUV, according to ABC News. His death marked the first recorded account of an immigration officer killing a U.S. citizen under President Trump. Still, many folks didn't learn about this story until after learning about Good's. Both Pooter and Good were shot and killed by ICE officials in front of multiple witnesses. Both victims had families and children, and both communities in Los Angeles and Minneapolis are demanding transparency and a full investigation into their deaths. The differences between the two fatal incidents are jarring, which has prompted pause from media outlets who aren't sure about how to cover Pooter's story. Journalist Dr. Yannick Lamb, who is a Howard University professor, pointed to the media being spread too thin for the ongoing uncertainty. There's so much going on that it's causing distractions. In less than a week, the capture of the Venezuelan president, anniversary of the Capitol insurrection, and Jeffrey Epstein drama all flooded the news. It's by design. Trump is doing a lot of things to unnerve people, but also stretch people to their limits. We're trying to cover everything. And I can absolutely attest to that one. This includes stories like Pooter's, which took a tragic turn just before midnight. According to ABC 7, the 43-year-old was at his Los Angeles apartment complex observing the holiday by shooting an AK-15 style rifle into the air. Witnesses denied Pooter aimed his weapon at anyone or posed a threat. Still, the gunfire caught the attention of one neighbor in the complex who just so happened to be an off-duty ICE agent. The neighbor allegedly left his apartment to investigate the gunfire while also in possession of his own department-issued firearm, according to LAPD. When he spotted Pooter, a brief verbal exchange occurred before the unthinkable happened. Los Angeles police said the agent identified himself before ordering Pooter to put down his gun. When the black man failed to comply, the agent opened fire, according to police. LAPD alleged Pooter fired 3 rounds at the ICE officer right before the agent returned fire. It's unclear if the officer was injured as a result of Pooter's weapon. A full investigation is underway. Now, let me first say, I certainly don't advise that anybody go shooting an AK-15 style rifle in the air from an apartment complex, but I didn't know that was a crime punishable by death. So let's focus on the accusation that he fired rounds at the ICE officer. Federal authorities claim the agent confronted Pooter around 10:30 on December 31st after Pooter allegedly fired rounds into the air, describing the killing as a response to an active shooter situation. The Department of Homeland Security says Pooter fired at the agent before he was killed. Pooter's family and community advocates strongly dispute that account, saying there's no independently released evidence showing Pooter posed an imminent threat or fired at the agent. They argue that the off-duty ICE officer should have disengaged and called local police rather than using lethal force, and they have called for an independent investigation, transparency, and accountability. Okay, so the assertion that he fired at the ICE officer is being disputed by family, advocates, as well as witnesses. And what they are asking for is an investigation and transparency, which should be the reflexive response in a scenario like this. But we live in a world in 2026 where it's a win to get an investigation in a case involving an ICE officer, because that's certainly more than we can expect out of Minneapolis, where they're not even cooperating with the local authorities. So certainly that transparency has been denied. An investigation is the ask. Now, one thing that was never alleged by the ICE officer was that anybody was in harm's way, that there was any sort of lethal threat before he approached Keith Pooter. So there wasn't one beforehand.
You don't find that suspicious?
And as opposed to calling the police like, a normal human being, he decides as an ICE officer to take his weapon and take matters into his own hands. Well, funny that accusation of him firing at the ICE officer, that's more than you need to get some defense from MAGA. Have you forgotten the reason why he was shot? He was randomly firing an AR-15 into the sky on New Year's Eve to celebrate the new year. I know facts are difficult for you. He was firing a rifle into the air, which can easily kill someone. An off-duty ICE agent who happened to live nearby went to see what was going on. But telling the whole story isn't nearly as sympathetic, so you don't. He fired 3 shots at the officer. Case closed. Another POS martyr. Now, I asked this question in the video I did in response to Minneapolis. And that was, is this really what you want, MAGA? I know it gives you some kind of feeling on the inside to feel like you're on the winning team despite receiving absolutely nothing. In fact, you got less, but he just telling you we winning. Is this the world that you want?
What the? Dang. Oh, it's not good. Oh, it's looking grim. Oh, it's grim. Hey, yo. Dang. Oh, it's looking grim.
If ICE said so, then it must be true. Has Jonathan Ross finally been discharged from the hospital? Last I saw, he was walking around like nothing happened. That's right. That was what the president said in response to Minneapolis, which I'm apparently supposed to ignore as you swallow this story in whole cloth as if that didn't happen. See, the thing is, we actually remember I know you have to have the memory of a goldfish to still be in MAGA in 2026. You literally have to have the memory of a goldfish. A Trumpian memory, let's call it that. But the rest of us, though? He's not a police officer. His sole role is immigration and things relating to that. He has zero defense in that regards. My husband and I, for 32 years, have fired our guns. I could hear gunfire nearby and far, far away. His on/off-duty status has zero bearing regarding LA. Oh, 2 issues that were presented there. 1, this man is a ICE officer. I don't believe this was an immigration scenario at all. But apparently we've given them de facto special powers. And MAGA, I just want to be clear that this is part of draining the swamp and disentangling the deep state, is a police force with just amorphous, vague powers that go and supersede the actual police, where you have to ask for an investigation. One again, is that the world that you want? Is that the world that you want? And then doubling down with, so do y'all want to criminalize shooting guns in the air, MAGA? That's going to hit red a lot harder than it's going to hit blue. So is that a narrative that you want to push? And where's the NRA at a time like this? It's scary given that so many in ICE have little training, education, or even vetting. Those in ICE are not held to standards of law enforcement. Y'all ready to talk about it? Y'all ready to talk about it? Cause you did hear about the whole 47 days of training to be in the special force with the vague amorphous powers where Kristi Noem can clear you. By the way, the same Kristi Noem who gave us this.
I remember a time when Republicans were very careful about and worried about the government, particularly unelected people.
Well, we can't trust the government anymore.
Having access to personal data.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
You are the government.
Yes, that's what I'm saying, is that the American people now are saying that we have had our personal information shared and out there in the public.
Now Elon Musk has access to it.
Yeah, but Elon Musk is part of the administration that is helping us identify where we can find savings and what we can do. And he has gone through the processes to make sure that he has the authority
So you're totally
the president has
comfortable with
granted him.
it.
I am today by the work that he's doing by identifying waste, fraud, and abuse. And his information that he has is looking at programs, not focusing on personal data and information.
Not focusing on it, but he has access to it.
We'll be continuing to talk to him about what all he has access to. But this audit needs to happen to make sure that we are going through a process that adds integrity back into these programs. And
that's right. Kristi Noem out of her own mouth talking about how we can't trust government. But y'all do. But y'all do, don't you? Don't you? Even after they ran on government can't be trusted when they become the government, now y'all,
Okay, I need to unpack this in a way that doesn't lose the human at the heart of it. I'm not interested in debating whether ICE is complicated and every officer is good or bad. Because when ICE embeds itself into everyday life and neighborhoods, And that very presence kills a man who wasn't even their target. We have to talk about what that actually means, not what that might mean hypothetically. So let's talk about Keith Porter, and let's do it gently, because this is a human life that we're talking about. Keith Porter was a 43-year-old father of two who was shot and killed by an off-duty ICE agent on New Year's Eve in Northridge, California. That's a man with children. A girl dad, no less. Someone whose daughters now have to go through life without him. And I genuinely can't imagine what that must feel like. That's a real loss, not a talking point. And here's the thing that makes my blood simmer. Keith wasn't being detained by ICE. He wasn't a part of an immigration operation. He wasn't someone ICE had a warrant for. He wasn't even on ICE's radar. Yet an off-duty ICE officer inserted himself in a situation that he never should have been in. And it ended with Keith's life being taken. Now, from what I've read, ICE agents do go through training. Questionable, but training. And that training is about enforcement, detention, compliance, transportation, custody, paperwork. It's not designed for community police response. It's not designed for moments where someone's ambiguous, confused, chaotic, scared, or just human. So when an ICE agent off duty decides that they're the one to respond in a moment that's not immigration enforcement context, you have a mismatch, right? You have enforcement training, not community safety training. You have authority, not discretion. You have orders and compliance, not judgment and empathy. That mismatch is deadly. And it's also why we saw the killing of Renee Good in Minneapolis, a 37-year-old mother and writer who was shot 3 times in the face by an ICE officer. That shooting has sparked nationwide protests, and local leaders called for accountability after video contradicted the official narrative. 2 different people, 2 different cities, same structural problem. Not one bad moment. A system that is built without limits or accountability, and without a real delineation from things like local law enforcement and community crisis response. And I want to be clear about something very real. I couldn't and wouldn't want to imagine what Keith's daughters are going through right now. That's not political. That is human. Whatever the legal narratives are, whatever self-defense language gets used, whatever DHS says, a father is gone. His family is grieving. That's the price humans pay when an agency that wasn't designed for everyday civilian moments starts acting like it is. And until people start asking, why are ICE agents, especially off-duty, involved in situations that call for a trained community response? Why does enforcement mission creep into human moments? Why is there so little accountability when someone dies? When someone gets murdered? None of this gets resolved. Keith didn't die because he was a threat. He died because enforcement power without proportional limits got used in a moment that it never should have been in. That's the structural truth, and honestly, that's why this keeps happening.
And I want to thank Ashley, the Baroness, for that, because I gave my thoughts on Renee Good. And in this scenario, I would like to make clear that I have no issue with any of the response to Renee Good whatsoever. That is how we should be responding in a situation like this. It is the others that deserve the same energy. And given what we saw about how many they've already piled up, we should have been here.
Sadly, I'm late to breaking news, like ridiculously late. But R.I.P. Keith Porter, R.I.P. Keith Porter, R.I.P. Keith Porter. And this conversation is going to combine a couple of things, but ultimately, the fact that we didn't hear about Mr. Porter until after Miss Good, R.I.P., says exactly what needs to be said about where the sons and daughters of freemen and freedmen need to be as far as this particular fight as an American. And that's far from the front lines, because we did what we were supposed to do. We warned these people. We told these people, if you're a son or daughter of freemen or freedmen, you recognized on the first election that once the certain groups came out, what was likely to come along with it. We saw it. We saw it with his history. We saw it with his business dealings. We saw enough, and we warned you not to do that to America. We warned foreigners in this country, foreigners born in this country. We warned you all.
Shout out to Defects B. I actually found his page in preparation for this video, and I'm going to have a whole lot more to say about the knowledge that he's kicking over there. But we absolutely did warn them. However, that doesn't make us immune to the response. And that, quite frankly, is infuriating.
I just got back from Keith Porter Jr.'s Candlelight Vigil, and it was 2 of the most impactful hours of my life. Let's talk about it. Keith Porter Jr., also known as Pooter to his friends and family, was by all intents and measures an incredible man. He was loving, he was caring. The way they described him and the way his friends and family eulogized him, it was as if he only known you for 5 minutes, but he made you feel like he knew you his whole life. And in fact, I felt like I knew him, and I certainly did it, just by how warm and inviting everybody was at the service. But unfortunately, being black, you can be the most loving, the most empathetic person, but when it's convenient for folks to change the narrative, that's exactly what they're going to do. They're going to try to paint Keith, right, like he was some sort of animal. But I tell you, it is our responsibility as content creators to make sure we reframe and we restore the narrative to who he actually was. Now, I want to echo something that Keith Porter's daughter said in the post that she made a day or so ago, right? That this is real life. This man was more than a hashtag, right? He had real parents, a real father, a real mother, right? He had real friends. He had a real community. And we can never forget that. We can never forget that, right? As content creators, we're so used to being behind our computer, being behind our phone, right? Creating content. But the most impactful thing that we can do is get out into the community. Right? Give his mother a hug. Give his father a pat on the back. Console his friends. We can never forget that our job starts with our content, but ends with our love. Y'all take care and say his name, Keith Porter Jr.
Just from his account, you can see that he fundraised for battered women's shelters, supported street artists, advocated for health services, and spent a lot of time laughing with his family. Rest in power, Keith. We honor you as well. Amen to that. And I'll let him take us out. Thank you guys so much for supporting the video. It's the end of another year we won't be able to explain to our kids. And what did we learn? Never trust a Jet2 holiday. Never take your side piece to Coldplay. Now that's neo soul territory. So much has happened in 2025. Last year this time, I was selling podcasts out the back of my trunk using rent-to-own furniture. Last year, I was sitting the bench watching JV basketball as a senior with a uniform on, hoping I don't have to play. This year, I got 3 kids and a trick knee. 2025. Well, look on the bright side. At least your year was better than Katy Perry's and Sydney Sweeney's. Taylor Swift came into 2025 thinking they were going to win the Super Bowl and definitely going to make a run this year. And she was going to have all that airtime. They lost that one. And now Travis at home for the whole off season on the couch, gaining weight as a fiance. Damn. But since it is the end of the year, I want to remind all of our members to check the community tab and vote on our year-end awards. Those are going on right now, and there's a couple of polls that we've run already. But you know what? I feel hopeful going into the new year, and this community is a big part of that. Also, the Let 'em Fight banquet is also another very big part of that. But here we're talking about this community. I'm talking about our head moderator, Miss Ray, Regina, on research, and our editors, David, Denzel, and Boz, as well as all the mods that have helped us with the premieres, our research squad, which was just assembled. And by the way, if you would like to join either the research squad or be one of our volunteer mods, you can hit me up at admin@reesewaters.com. And I also have to give a special shout out to somebody who started out as one of our volunteer mods, but has become an integral part of this particular channel and has stepped up when needed. My girl, Deshauna, who also sent me this photo with her discouraged, depleted, but never defeated t-shirt. And you know what, Deshauna? It looks as good as I feel when I see your name in the chat during the premiere. Thank you so much for all of your hard work, and thank all of you for all of your support. I can't wait to see what's next.